how to get your offer accepted. My name is Jacob Lawlor. I am the branch manager for the Mission Viejo office of First Team Real Estate. A quick little background about me. I am a former top producer, Hall of Fame agent. I also was the team manager, team leader for the top team for First Team Real Estate at that time, who's doing over $100 million in yearly volume. Also, the way that I look at myself above anything is an agent builder. I am here to help you build your business. That is how we're going to be doing this training today, is all about how you can take this information to build your business. Beyond anything else, though, I am a family guy. I love my family. These are my two wonderful kids, Kaylee and Alex, my incredibly beautiful wife and wonderful wife, Jessica, and our dog, who was very not having fun taking that picture. But what we're here today is I'm here for you, because you guys know this is a tough market. This is a tough market to work buyers and even on the seller side to handle these offers that are coming in, which again is a good quality problem, but it's still a problem. There's low inventory, bidding wars. Many agents that I'm talking to are writing 20, 30 offers for their clients. And to write 20, 30 offers, number one, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of offers. That's a lot of showings, but that is a ton of frustration for you as well as for your buyer clients, because buyer clients specifically do not age like wine. The longer it takes for you to have success with them, and the longer that the more offers they lose out on, the more they start second guessing you as their agent. So let's talk about how we can even overcome that, because in the news, we're seeing articles where it's saying the housing market is so hot that buyers are paying $1 million over the list price, over the asking price. Almost 2/3 of homeowners, of home offers written face bidding wars. So they're all over the place. And we sometimes find ourselves asking ourselves, there has to be a better way. And there is. And what I'm going to show you today, I'm going to show you a way to make it easier, but I can promise you this, is that you will not get benefit unless you're willing to put in the work to this, because information alone won't get your offers accepted. You have to put the work in. So let's talk about how we're going to structure this masterclass today. I've really sectioned it into 3 portions. Number 1 is what actually logistically makes a great offer. Then number 2 is how to get a client to write a great offer. And then number 3 is how to get it accepted. That's really the difference between getting accepted and not, is the sales element, putting it all together. And I'm going to end with 2 bonuses that are going to make everything easier. So definitely make it a point to take some notes, stay engaged, and I promise this will be well worth your time. So let's first get right into it. What makes a great offer? And sometimes us as agents, we get a little bit lazy and we call the listing agent and we say, hey, what is it going to take to put this deal together? And usually their responses are one of 2 things. Number 1 is, hey, just send me a good, clean offer. What does that really mean? Don't make any mistakes. Don't make their job harder for them. A good, clean offer is one that you make their life easier. That may seem like common sense, but I promise you, once you become a listing agent and you see the disaster that the gross majority of agents are with the horrible mistakes, the horrible offers that are submitted, you will learn that not every agent has gone through this incredible training program that we have here at First Team Real Estate. And as a buyer's agent, it sometimes is frustrating when they say a good, clean offer, but trust me, once you become a listing agent, you will know why they say that. The second response is usually, hey, look, you guys come in with your highest and best, or that's oftentimes on a multiple counter offer. You will see that written on there. One thing to note is that highest doesn't always mean best, and best doesn't always mean highest. Any agent can get their offer accepted by being the highest, but a buyer client doesn't want to win because they're the highest. And a good buyer's agent who can have a repeat and referral business, a good professional agent, knows how to write the best offers and how to put the best, their client's best foot forward. So let's break it down to what that actually means. And the way that I have to simplify the 10 pages of the legally binding RPA, that yes, it is going to be changing here at the end of the year, and we will be doing trainings as that approaches. but it's going to still be the same concept, is that the seller really only cares about two things. Number one is their greed, right? There's a reason why they're selling, right? So the price, the greed, the money aspect, we can't get around, right? But also the seller cares about peace of mind, how likely you are to close, right? The peace of mind, how easy are you going to make it for them? So let's break down what greed is. Greed is the price, the money that they're going to end up getting at the end of the day. That really comes down into two concepts. The objective value, this will dictate what the eventual price is on a home, is the objective value, what we always know as, you know, what an appraiser would say, or what we bring our CMAs, our comps, to have kind of like a glass ceiling, so to speak, to give an idea on what's an objective value for the home. The second element of that is what I'll just call the sales pressure, or how many people are willing to pay that price or potentially more. We've all seen homes that have sold well above their objective valuation. We've also seen homes that have sold below what they should have sold for. We know that the easiest definition of what something is worth is what somebody's willing to pay for it. And what I usually break it down to is the objective value, the comps, the closed sales, what an appraiser would see, and then also how many people are interested in that home. So if you kind of break it down to that way, it kind of takes the pressure off of you when you're being asked for a specific number on what that home will sell for, because it comes down to both of those. The second part is the peace of mind, and we can kind of relate that to the terms of the offer. And really that comes down to the assured close, right? How confident will that seller be that you will be able to close based upon your financing, how much you put down as the initial deposit, or what we'll call the skin in the game, right? And then also the contingencies, that the fact that you might be removing some or shortening some will give that seller more of that peace of mind. The other end of it is the ease of the transaction. How much time are you giving them for an escrow time frame? Do they want it to be closed? To close sooner rather than later because they have an up-leg property that they need to align with? Is it somebody who's lived in their house 50 years and maybe they need longer to move out? If you write them an escrow saying I'll close in 10 days and they're staring at their attic filled with 50 years worth of stuff, that might make them a little bit more concerned, right? Also, items included in or excluded from the transaction. Do they already have plans for items, or do they want to leave some of them because it might be a hassle for them to move? And then also possession, which is a huge one right now, where it might not just be that COE +3 that we may have been taught before. Maybe they need 30 days. Maybe they want a certain period of time, and whether that possession time frame is a paid for amount, or whether that is you're offering that for free, where maybe your price might be lower, but you're offering them things in return. So all of these items play a role into how much peace of mind the seller has about the buyer's offer. And the phrase that I used to always use for my buyer clients and what I train agents for is, the more you concern a seller, the more you will pay for a house. And even in a market like this, the less likely you will be chosen, or the less likely that the sellers will end up choosing you. Because if you think about it, if you have two offers on the table and one of them's a cash offer, they've shown them the briefcase of cash, at least on paper, right? They're showing them that they have the money. They're going to just give them everything they want. They don't have a concern about the financing side. They're going to buy it as is. It's totally fine. And another offer comes in at the exact same price, but they maybe have shaky financing, or maybe they have different terms. The seller's going to take that assured close well over that shaky financed offer. Now, the question is, at what point does the seller's greed overtake their peace of mind? Like, if you give them $5,000 extra, will they maybe take that risk, right? Because everything is a risk reward balance going on in the seller's head. And most of the time it's subconscious or an unconscious evaluation that they're doing. And every seller's peace of mind is worth a different amount, and we don't know that amount. That is the unknown, us as buyer's agents writing offers on these listings. But every seller has a value to their peace of mind. We don't know what that number is, but it's always worth something. So a strong agent knows that if they play up on this, the seller's peace of mind with the assured close, the easy to work with, they're going to end up getting a lower price, or at least a higher likelihood of them being chosen. So think back to, the more you concern a seller, the more you will pay for a house. So every item that you adjust on the purchase contract, think to yourself and get your clients to think, if I do this, will this concern the seller more, or will this concern the seller less? Meaning, will they like me more, or will they like us less? Because in a market with multiple offers and bidding wars, we all want the seller and, which we'll talk about later, the listing agent to like us, right? So let's talk about tactically what actually goes into making a great offer, right? First and foremost, let's get out of the way, price, right? We can't get around price. We already talked about what goes into the eventual price with the objective valuation and the sales pressure, but price. A great phrase that was taught to me early in my career is, in this market, if you don't come in with your best foot forward, you might not get a second chance opportunity. This happens a lot with buyers that say, hey, if we're willing to pay this, should we come in a little bit lower so we have more to come back with on the counter offers? In a market like this, a counter offer isn't guaranteed. And in fact, every market, a counter offer is not guaranteed. So if you don't come in with your best foot forward, you might not get a second chance opportunity. Escrow time frame, we're usually taught 30, 45 days is considered quote unquote standard. It's true, but the question is, how long does the seller want or need, but specifically want, but also what time frame does the lender need? And meshing those time frames up in order to do that. If it's a cash deal, then you don't have to worry so much about time frames. It's a good idea to connect with your escrow officer to kind of confirm with them to see, hey, how long should a transaction like this take? But it's a working back and forth with, what does the seller want and what can the lender do? And that goes into the lending options, which we'll talk about in a second. Another portion is the initial deposit, right? Usually, good rule of thumb, the more the better, right? But 3% is considered a full deposit. So anything less than that might concern the seller more, but 3% is considered a full deposit. But good rule of thumb, or general rule, as we're supposed to be saying now, is the more the better. Okay. Also, the financing type. Is it just a pre-qual letter? Is it a pre-approval? Is it a DU approval? Is it a subject to approval, or what some call a TBD approval? Talk to your homeowner's first rep, because we have incredible loan officers who can kind of really help you dissect what that difference is. But for the sake of time and sanity, I don't want to go too much into the weeds on that, but the strength of your financing is so important, and how quickly the lender can get it done is so vitally important. Also, do they have a contingency to sell, right? It's super tough in any market, but especially in a seller's market like we're experiencing today, because in a buyer's market, the seller's worried about, will your home even sell? Right? So, because they're saying, hey, look, it's taken us this long to even get to this point. What makes us feel that we're going to be able to wait for you? Right? And in the seller's market, there's usually so many options for them to choose from. They're more than likely going to have an option that doesn't involve a contingency to sell. Because the baseline that was taught to me is, when you're writing a contingent offer, you're having to sell the seller and the listing agent that your house that you're going to end up selling for them, or the buyer's house that they're selling, is more saleable than their house that you're currently writing an offer on. Because if you don't sell them on that, why would they take a contingent offer? If they're saying, look, I can sell my house before you can sell yours, unless the price, their greed overwhelms that peace of mind, you're going to have a hard time. And then contingency timeframes. The less the better, the shorter the better in terms of getting it accepted. We're going to go over protecting your client, but in terms of what makes a strong offer or makes a seller want to work with you, good general rule is the less the better and the shorter the better, making sure that your clients remains protected. But in terms of saleability, that's how we go there. Also, items included and excluded. Does the seller already have plans for some items, or is you asking for certain things going to make them more concerned for you? Did they plan on taking that refrigerator with them and now you're asking for it? You'd be surprised at how flippantly us as agents check those little boxes, and maybe the buyers didn't even want it, and that's the reason why they didn't get their offer accepted. Planning it out, taking a really keen eye in the offers to make sure you're actually doing what the buyer's wishes are and making sure that that coincides with what the seller wants to do. And then possession. That is a big thing that we're doing right now on possession, is how much time does the seller want or need to coordinate their move? We're seeing a lot of free 29-day rent backs. And I did say specifically 29 days because that relates to the SIP. Anytime that you have 30 or more days, we have to use the RLAS. Little segue, usually consult with your lender, but usually anything longer than 59 days, the lender would now consider that a non-owner occupied loan, or it would need to be an investment loan, which has different qualifications. So make sure that when you're coordinating possession, and if you're doing rent backs, check with your lender before you agree to anything to make sure that that doesn't jeopardize your client's loan. Segue, you can also chat with them about what you need to do to push off their first payment until the month following, so that way they don't lose any out-of-pocket money. They're still charged on the interest, but they don't have any payments until that following month. That way it doesn't cost your buyer money, but it makes the seller happy. Again, I don't want to get into the weeds yet, but we can have that in the Q&A. I want to give you guys a thing. I will be posting this when we post the recording, a PDF that I put together on how to get your offer accepted. I'll show you what that looks like right here. This is something I used to give to my buyer clients, really going over exactly what we're talking about here today, which is how to get your offer accepted, and that the seller only cares about two things. And the more you concern a seller, the more you pay for a home. And these are what I would always talk about as the main items. The bonus items with the strength of the financing, all that fun stuff. But what I had in here is this was a document that I would give to a buyer client early on in the process, and I would tease the buyer consultation by saying, want to learn the secrets and the loopholes, right? So let's get together and I'll show you what's standard and what will set your offer above the rest, as well as a highlighted portion of what I found most pertinent to buyer clients. So I will include this. I will include this on when we post the recording, but wanted to at least share that with you. Feel free to use this as a guide. It does have my information at the bottom, so I wouldn't send this to clients unless you want them calling me, but use this as a guide for yourself. Anyway, word of caution, right, is we can't tell them to write certain things on the contract. We can't tell them to remove their appraisal contingency. We can't tell them to remove or shorten certain things. This has to be their decision, right? We can only advise our clients as to what their options are, but it must be their decision, because if you end up getting in a lawsuit, God forbid, right? And the buyer says, you told me to do certain things, you will be eaten alive in the courtroom. So just word of caution, we can only advise them as to what their options are, but it must be their decision, because it's their money. It's their risk, and it's their house to buy or not to buy. We can't want the deal more than they do. If you write anything down on this slide, I would write that down. We can't want the deal more than they want the deal. That's how we get ourselves into trouble. A way to protect yourself from that, which is also, it's saved us personally here at our office, but it's just good measure, is to use the acting against the advice of a broker form. This is in a different library within Zip Forms. It's part of car sample forms, not the general car forms, or the sample letters, I actually believe it's technically called. So I need to adjust that, this PowerPoint. So I believe it's car sample letters. So here's a little click by click, step by step. Go under forms and say sample letters, acting against the advice of a broker buyer. Now, it doesn't have a place for the buyers to sign. I would manually flag it, whether you do DocuSign or whether they're signing it in person, for them to sign, just showing that, yes, they have seen this form. Again, this is saying that we don't advise them to do certain things. So that's why it's so important to make sure that we don't tell them, but we give them advice as to what their options are, but it has to be their decision. So that cuts out what makes a great offer logistically. So let's get into the second portion, which is how to get a client to write a great offer. Because just because you know how to write a great offer doesn't mean that your client will do it, right? And so the first thing is you being aware of it. So how do you get a client to write a great offer? The first part is you have to actually have a real buyer. Sounds simplistic, but you'd be surprised at how many times I am consulting with agents that they're saying, I'm having a hard time with this buyer client. They're not getting their offers accepted. And we start peeling back the buyer's reality of them buying a house, and we find out they're not a real buyer. No fault to them. It's just not the right time for them. Do they really want to buy a house, or do you just want them to buy a house? This usually happens when we have a small pipeline. When we have less people than we have money, so to speak, where we inject our own wants onto them, and we'll usually go by their responsiveness to us. So the question is, are they realistic? Are they really going to be buying a house? Do they know what it takes to get their offer accepted? Or are they just responsive to us? Where you say, oh, well, they're opening all my emails. They respond to all my texts. They answer when I call. That doesn't mean that they're going to buy a house. They just might be polite. They might just be responsive and like you as a person, but they might not be a real buyer. Dan Sarnicki, our incredible manager of the Irvine office, has a great metric he uses of the motivation, needs, options, timelines. He has a great series of questions that helps defer that from a client on what their motivation is, what their needs are, what other options do they have, like renting or maybe buying in a different area, what's their time frame. What I like to boil it down to is what's their true motivation, and we really dig deep into that, meaning if they say that they're tired of renting, why are they tired of renting? Why is now that time for them? If they've been renting for 20 years, that's a red flag, meaning what if all of the time is now the time for you, right? And then what's their perception of the market? Sometimes they might have a good motivation, but if they think the market's going to crash in 6 months, why would they buy right now? And you might get those clients who are what some call tire kickers, who they'll go look at houses. They might even throw out lowball offers. But if they feel like the market is quote unquote toppy or getting a little bit expensive, they might in the back of their mind be thinking, yeah, if I can get a good deal, I'll buy a house, but I don't really need to right now. But sometimes the motivation trumps any thoughts of the marketplace because there's a change in their life and they need to do something right now. And what I was taught by my first mentor, Fred Nassab, out of the Seal Beach Rossmore office, is judge a client by one thing, and that's, are they taking the next indicated step? Meaning, if you're sending them properties, are they looking at them? Are they responding to them? Then are they actually going out physically to look at properties with you? Then are they making sure that they have all of their lending squared away? Are they writing offers? Then are they writing realistic offers? And then in the moment of decision, when they have the counter offer and the ball is in their court, are they making the decision to buy? Because if they're not, and they're not taking that next indicated step, that's a big red flag on if they're a real buyer or not. The second step is, are they prepared? Right? Have you gone over the process with them? Have you introduced them to the RPA? Have you gone through what it really takes to get their offer accepted, shown them the process and taught them what it's going to take, right? Also, do they know the true market dynamics? What is their perception of the realities of the market? Do they know that this market is insane? And we'll get into that in a second, but do they know what it takes to get their offer accepted? And here's a big one for me. Do you have their financials in order and on file? Meaning, have they supplied you with their proof of funds? Have they supplied you with their pre-approval letters? And this is the hardest thing for buyers agents to do, especially when we get in a negative dynamic where we become pessimistic. But are you showing up to every showing, providing them with a CMA to give them the information they need to make an educated decision on pricing? Because if we're not, we're either showing them too many houses, okay, or we don't want to do the work, or we don't even believe that it's gonna matter. Sometimes when you're shelling out 20, 30 offers for every client, you start becoming pessimistic onto the individual offers. It doesn't even matter. We're just gonna throw it out there and see what works. That's not how you become a professional agent. That's not how you become valuable in this marketplace. And this is a hard thing to say, and I get it. Inventory is low, and I get it that sometimes it's just you're scrambled to go, but I can promise you guys, even as simplistic as doing the quick CMA printout of the tract will at least put you miles ahead of showing up with nothing. So that's in terms of preparing a client for market dynamics, the two best tools that we have at our disposal is trend graphics and market trends. These are proprietary tools to us at First Team Real Estate. Trend graphics, we have our access to it, but also market trends is exclusively to us. It is built in-house. It is incredibly valuable. There was already an incredible step-by-step training done by Bob McCullough, so I'm not going to go over how to utilize market trends and trend graphics, but just know that that is available. That was done on March 24th of this year. He did an incredible training showing you how to leverage market trends, how to read market trends, and how to share it with your clients so that they know the dynamics, but also the direction of the marketplace in here. But let's talk about our local market, at least here by our office, using just the MLS. This is something you can do in a couple seconds, and this will put you miles ahead of a client who maybe just read an article saying that the market is hot. In our local marketplace, which is this 7-mile radius that you guys can see, there were 2,263 sales in the last 90 days. Insane. 80% of them, 80% of them are selling at or above list price. The average list to sales price ratio is 102.5%. Again, that is the average list to sales price ratio. And it's on average selling $25,000 above list price with a median days on market of 7. So if you just share that with a client, that will let them know, look, the majority of these homes are selling in a week or less. They're on average selling $25,000 above the list price and incredibly, incredibly quickly. So those clients who are wanting to lowball, you can share with them that only 2.9% of homes in the last 3 months, this is up-to-date market data, have sold for 95% or less. And those have an average days on market of 67 days. So yeah, if a home's been on the market for 2 months, we might be able to get a better deal. But all of these homes that are brand new on the market, which is in the majority of when these multiple offers happen, just know that in that first week, on average, they're selling above list price and on average $25,000 above the list price. But you might say, yeah, that's great, but I've seen homes that have sold well more than $25,000 above list price. So those averages are great, but sometimes those averages don't tell the full story, because maybe the one that you're looking at is going to sell more than 25,000. So let's look at some specifics, and I'll zoom in here so that way you guys can see it a little bit clearly. If you didn't know this, I would highly recommend you guys create a custom display in the MLS. And what I want you to add on that custom display is what I have in the very top right, if you guys can see that, and it's ratio of closed price by list price. So what I did is I sorted our market by the ratio of closed price to list price. That shows the homes that sold at the highest percentage over list prices at the top, and it steadily goes down from there. So let's take a look at a few of these. The first one, listed at $975, sold for 1.2. That's well more than 25,000. I can't do that math on the fly. What is that? $225,000 above the list price. From basically $1 million to 1.2, that's $200,000 above the list price. From $1,025,000 to 1.210. Holy crap, right? If you guys can't see down there towards the bottom side where it says Pepper Tree Bend, 6.250 to 7.25, $1 million above the list price here in our local marketplace in the last 90 days. So even though on average, we're selling 25,000 above the list price, on a case-by-case specific basis, we're getting well more than that. So if you go into the specifics, it can become way more impactful by sharing with them, look, it's not just 25,000, and it's not just what I'll call the bread and butter or the lower price points. We saw right here, $1 million over the list price at 6.25, right? If you have $6.25 million, you're not going to flippantly spend that. And this person did $1 million more than that. So that just lets you know that when you find the right house and there's enough sales pressure, homes in our marketplace are selling well above the list price. And it comes down to that objective valuation, what other homes have sold for, but also how many people think it's a no-brainer at that price point. And you have the ability to go well above that. We're looking at 100,000, 200, 500,000, $1 million above the list price. Something to keep in mind. So if you know that, you prepare them. The next part is, did you find them the right house, right? Because if they don't like the house, any house is too high. Don't flippantly write offers because they want to settle. That's how you get deals into escrow and have them fall out. We only get paid when a house closes. The client only gets the house when it closes. So make sure, do they actually like the house, or are they just, you know, throwing offers out there because they're frustrated, right? I always found that clients really had to answer 3 questions to themselves. Is, should I buy at all, right? That's when they ask the question, hey, how's the market? Is it a good time to buy? That's not our dilemma. That is not our job to convince somebody to buy a house. Our job is not to convince a buyer to buy. Our job is to take a client who's already convinced to buy and help finding them the right house and help share with them how doing it with us is better than doing it without us. So first of all, take that responsibility of that first question off of your plate. The second question they have to decide is, should I buy this house? Is this the house for us? Right? And you can usually find that by them asking buying sign questions like, oh, okay, what were the HOA amenities again? They start placing their furniture. Oh, this would be a great bedroom for little Johnny, right? Or whatever that is. And then the third question is, should I buy this house at this price? Sometimes you find a house and they're like, oh my goodness, we love it, but we don't think it's worth it, right? So making sure that you find them the right house. And a great line of questioning when they ask you, what price should we write on this, is number one, of course, you go through the whole process of you share with them the comps and you do this. And then you say, you know, at what price? What I find is a good, when they're not willing to put a price to their name or their name to a price, what I find is, hey, look, at what price would this house be a no-brainer for you guys? Right? And they go, oh yeah, if it's for like $40, you know, of course, at $40, it's $40, I'll get 14 of them, right? But no, realistically, at what price would this house just be a no-brainer? You wouldn't have to think about it. You want them to put out an actual price, okay? Make them put their name to a price. And if they have a price that's lower than you think it should be, You can respond with, hey, look, totally get that. Just so you know, I talked to the listing agent. They already have 10 offers. So already at least 10 people thought that the list price was at least a no-brainer. So then at what price would you guys regret not offering if you found out that they went with one of those other 10 tonight? And I found that that line of questioning, going from what price would be a no-brainer to what price would you regret not offering, is a phenomenal way and an easier way to get them to up their price to a price that they'll put their name on it. And then the easiest close is, well, then let's not regret it then, right? If there's still room to be made, to say, hey, look, so if somebody else offers maybe $5,000, $10,000 more, would you guys regret it? And they're like, well, yeah, I guess we would regret it. Okay, so that's the price you guys wouldn't regret. Then let's not regret it yet, you know? So that's a line of questioning I found was helpful for me personally and for agents that I've coached to do that. The fourth option, hold on, you guys, is having a client on tilt. That's a great way to have a client write an offer, a great offer. And because sometimes a client has to lose a house before they finally get it. You can tell them everything in the world. You can share with them statistics. You can go through the whole thing. Sometimes the client themselves have to manually experience the loss. And I use the phrase on tilt because if you've ever played poker or had somebody have a friend who's a gambler, sometimes when a client loses a hand in poker, they start just betting stupid. They start just, saying, not doing the fundamentals of the game, and they call that on tilt. So I just like to use that phrase for a client who's lost out on a home. Sometimes they're just upset that they lost, and they're just saying, whatever we need to do, tell us what we need to do to get this next one accepted. And then the fifth one is to give them the opportunity, right? Give them the opportunity to write a great offer, right? Because it's our job to show them what they could do. Sometimes it is just an awareness issue. They don't know that they can give an extended possession time frame or a rent back, or they don't know that the initial deposit plays a role in the seller's level of concern for them. They don't know that there's a difference between a pre-qual and a pre-approval and a DU approval and a TBD approval. They don't know. So it's our job to tell them what they could do. It's not our job to tell them what to do. Okay, we already talked about that with the acting against the advice of a broker, right? This is something I learned from Hila Pooley, our incredible general counsel, that she says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. This is very poignant when we talk about, do you really have a buyer? When someone shows you who they are, believe them. If they show you that there's somebody who constantly lowballs, they're always going to do that. Right? If somebody shows you that they're just in it for the deal, right? Believe them. If there's somebody who you get those heebie-jeebies from because maybe they're looking for reasons to come after the seller afterwards or whatnot, believe them, right? This business, there's more business than we know what to do with if we take advantage of all of these opportunities. If someone shows you that they're not the right client for you, doesn't mean they're not a good person, but they might not be the right person for you. Believe them, because you will lose more money in a lack of productivity being overwhelmed by some of these buyer clients who are running you around when you knew right off the bat that there was something up, right? So that's how to get your client to write a great offer. So let's get into the meat, which is how to get an offer accepted, right? This is the moment of truth. The first step, you got to get your mind right. Right? Super basic, positive thinking stuff. But this truly is the difference, right? Because I want you guys to think that there is no prize for second place. Like we almost got it. That doesn't matter. You guys only get paid when you get your client the house. This is the difference. It can come down to $100 in price. It can come down to 1 day on the inspection contingency. It can come down to the most minute reasons why they choose you, but there is no prize for second place, right? So how much work did it take to get to this point? How many open houses did you have to sell? How many Facebook ads did you have to run? How many phone calls did you have to do? How many showings did you have to do? Some of these clients, it takes them forever to even get to the point of writing the offer. And what would you do for $10,000? Right? That's a pretty basic commission, right? If you think $400,000 at 2.5%, that's 10 grand, right? At $800,000, that's 20 grand, right? But what would you do for 10,000, 20,000? We have an agent in our company who had a buyer who did a $13 or $14 million buyer client at 2%. You know how much money that is? Imagine if they didn't get that offer accepted, right? Maybe if you have to think about it this way, what would you expect from someone else for $10,000? Some of us may say, you know, well, I got enough. I'm not doing this for the money, which number one, I'd call you a liar. But some of us are like, well, we don't have to get this one accepted. But think about it that way. What would you expect from someone else who you're going to give $10,000 to? Because the savvy buyers know that the money's coming from them. They're the only ones bringing money into the transaction. Sure, it comes out of the seller's net proceeds, but where is that proceeds coming from? Right? So think about what are buyer clients expecting, or what would you expect at a buyer client? And are you doing that? And raise your standards of and for yourself, because these matter for your clients. These are places where they're going to potentially raise their family, where they're going to spend a significant amount of their time. And are we putting the effort into these offers that it really deserves? Now let's get tactical, right? Enough esoteric, Jacob. Step 2, getting in with the gatekeeper. The listing agent is the gatekeeper to the transaction. We know that, right? This is admittedly the hardest part. So don't think I don't understand. Most listing agents don't want to talk to you. Number one, they don't feel like they need you because they got plenty of other people, and they might actually be intimidated. And we'll get into the reason why that is. But this is the hardest part, admittedly, but understand this is the most important part. If we don't get in with the gatekeeper, if you don't get in with the listing agent, know that you have a huge battle in front of you. You want the listing agent to like you. Sometimes we got to grit our teeth and smile and be that smiling punching bag. You want the listing agent to like you, especially in a multiple offer situation, right? You want them to want to work with you. A statistic that I ran using trend graphics is that approximately 70% of agents in Orange County, I ran this in Orange County, sell 2 or less homes per year. So approximately 70% of agents sell 2 or less houses a year. And this might be the only time all year that this listing agent feels important. Understand that. They might even be insecure. They might not be the most talented agent. And the way they respond is by being a bulldog, because it puts that barrier in front of them where they can't be, they can't be hurt. My favorite phrase, or my favorite law, if you will, is Hanlon's razor that goes over this concept. It's never attribute malice that which can be adequately explained by stupidity, or what I added in, or incompetence. So never assume that the listing agent is just an a-hole. They might be, but number one, that doesn't help our situation. But it could be that they're just incompetent, or they're just insecure. So do the best you can to get in with the listing agent. So how the heck do we do it? Step 1 is you want to know the listing agent also really only cares about, number 1, will you close? Will the buyer close? And will you be good to work with? If you really talk to top listing agents and you say, what do you really care about when you're looking at offers or you're choosing who to work with? They'll routinely say, look, will you close? And will you be good to work with? You'd assume that it's what's the highest price. But of course, the listing agent wants their client to get a higher price, but good listing agents know that it's all monopoly money until it closes. So they will more often than not choose a stronger qualified client and a better agent above any monopoly money offer that's thrown out there, right? So in terms of step-by-step, how to get in with the listing agent, most forgotten about is it actually starts at the initial showing request. It's not just about now your client wants to write an offer, now you try to make a good first impression. It all starts at the initial showing request. Read the MLS and follow the directions. If it says don't use showing time, don't use showing time, right? Nothing aggravates an agent more, a listing agent more, than agents who don't read the MLS. Sounds basic, but again, once you become a listing agent, you will be baffled at the insanity of the number of people who don't read and follow their directions. Right? See if you can make a personal connection. Read the MLS. See if you can uncover their personality. Has your lender worked with them? Has a coworker worked with them in the past? There's a great way to do that on the MLS, or even using trend graphics to find out who are other agents that this agent has worked with. Call in whatever favors you can, because again, you get nothing for second place. Right? There is no prize for second place. See if you can make a personal connection, because all things being equal, people want to work with people who they like. Okay. And the number one concern of a listing agent especially is communication, right? Never just show up unannounced. Always, always, always communicate with them. When you're locking up the home, hey, just want to give you a heads up, we're all locked up. Especially if you guys remember, before June of this year, where there could only be one showing party at a time and we were lining things up 15 minutes apart. Sometimes people wouldn't show up to their showing appointments, and listing agents were having to turn away showings. So as soon as maybe you're there a little early, maybe you're running late, over communicate rather than under communicate, right? Let them know when you're writing an offer, and let them know when you submit the offer. Nothing's weirder to a listing agent than all of a sudden an email comes through of an offer on their listing who that agent never reached out to do the showing, never sent a text or a phone call saying, hey, we're gonna be showing, when you're just emailing offers to agents and you're like, what the heck? Right? You want to make sure you're communicating, because if an agent's receiving 10, 15, 30 offers on a listing and you've never talked with them, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. There's no reason for the agent to look for your offer and to give it the time of day. Again, in a perfect world, every listing agent would scrutinize every offer the same and whatever, but let's just be honest. When you're getting 30 offers, it's almost impossible to properly present all 30 offers equally. You want the listing agent to remember you and to like you, right? Step 3 is gaining intel. This is always the question. How do I find out what it's going to take? You guys have lists of questions that I'm not going to go over, the same ones like when are they planning on presenting offers? How many offers do you guys have and all of that stuff. The one thing I will caution you against is to not ask the question, what is it going to take? Why do I ask that? Or why do I recommend against asking that? Because everybody asks that. And the agent is tired of saying, well, I don't really know what it's going to take because it depends whose offers comes in. Because I know agents who have said, oh, it's going to take X price, but they've said X price to 3 agents and all 3 agents come at X price. Then who are they going to choose? Right? So most agents will usually defer that or try to skirt around that. But a great way to at least start the conversation is, hey, we're writing up an awesome offer and I wanted to make sure it's exactly as you'd like it. Do you have a couple quick seconds to chat? Right? Because we all know it's difficult sometimes for listing agents to answer the phone. They're bombarded, right? Texting is a great way to gain attention and to get responses, not to do the selling, but it's a great way to at least get their response. You don't have to say it exactly like this, but it's the key that matters, which is, hey, we're writing up an offer. I want to make sure this is easy for you. Or, hey, I just wanted to make sure X, Y, Z. Do you have a couple quick seconds to chat? Okay. Words to use to overcome challenges from listing agents, right, is stating that you've read the MLS. Right? Because you'll say, hey, anything that you want me to say about the house, and they'll go, yeah, just read the MLS. I put it all in there. Right? So overcome that up front. Hey, I've already read the MLS that insert whatever your thing is. I just wanted to clarify, boom, whatever it is, but state that you've already read the MLS. And then they'll usually say, when you say, hey, look, what is it going to take? And they'll say, I don't know what it's going to take, but just come in with a good, strong offer, right? So preface that up front. Of course, we're going to be coming in with a clean and strong offer, but boom, whatever. And you don't have to say the word but. A lot of trainers or NLP people will say never use the word but. I was putting these slides together and I was trying to write down as many options as we can, right? So besides price, is there anything else that's particularly important to the seller? That's a great way to open the dialogue besides price. Do they need time? Do they need this? Do they need that? Or whatever, right? Do they already have their next house lined up? Or will timing be important to them? That's another way of asking the question of getting time frames, right? Here's one thing when you see in the MLS, right, that it says all offers will be presented on Tuesday, right? And you can say, I've read in the MLS that it says all offers will be presented on Tuesday, but if there's an offer that knocks the seller's socks off, would they be open-minded to responding sooner? Okay, again, using that second one, which is I've already read in the MLS, because if you say, hey, if we write a great offer, will they respond to us sooner? They'll usually go, I put it in the MLS that we're not responding till Tuesday. Be like, no, I got that. Like, I've already read the MLS that you're doing Tuesday. But if we write something awesome, like out of this world crazy, would they be open-minded to responding sooner? Right? And then not asking the question, what is it going to take? But maybe suggesting, hey, if we came around X to Y price, would we be in the ballpark? This is great when there are already multiple offers and you're coming to the game late, which that's a no-no, right? But if you're coming into the game late and they're like, hey, yeah, we're already at multiple offers, whatever. And you can say, hey, look, I totally get it. If we came around X to Y price, would we even be in the ballpark? That's a great way to get the listing agent to at least give you an insight, because that's all we're looking for on these intel questions. Is we're just trying to get a little insight for getting information to our client, so that way we can make the most informed decision as to what's the sales pressure on the house. We know what the objective value is because we did our comps, but what we're trying to identify here is what's the sales pressure and what are those trigger points for the peace of mind of the seller that's going to make our offer stand out amongst the others. Okay. So the next part is obviously submitting a great offer package, right? So number one, follow the directions in the MLS, right? If they say submit offers to blank, submit offers to blank, right? If they say put it on pink paper and spray it with perfume, I'm putting it on pink paper and spraying it with perfume. I want to get in with the gatekeeper. I want to make it as easy for them as possible, okay? Make the listing agent's job easy. Don't make mistakes or leave things missing in the RPA, right? Make their job easy, okay? Don't make it more difficult, because then that makes them like you less, right? Sending it in one email. I can't tell you how infuriating it is as a listing agent to get like 5 emails of going, oh, here's this. Oh, I forgot to put this in. I did this. I did. Come across as professional. Put time into putting your offer together. Put it in one email. It might be multiple attachments. All right. There's a limit there. Maybe there's the RPA and then the supplemental documents, right? But the very next point is have all documents organized. Don't have 13 attachments. That's infuriating to listing agents. Having 13 attachments that they either have to print out or download, whatever. Have it in 1 to maybe 2. I would usually prioritize doing it in 1. That way, if they send it to the client, it's all in 1. But sometimes if an agent, if an agent wants it in a certain way, again, follow the directions, but I would sometimes do the actual offer itself and then into the supplemental documents. And we'll go into like a how-to during the Q&A, but I appreciate you guys holding questions until then. And then sending the offer with a cover letter and an offer summary. Again, sending the offer with a cover letter and a summary, just summarizing everything. Because if the agent's getting 30 offers, you want it to be very easy to read and in their face, right? Next one is make sure to highlight how great you are to work with and how great the buyer clients will be to work with. Because again, you're selling to both the listing agent and the seller as well. And then as a bonus, include a video or some maybe prior listing agent testimonials. If you've been a great buyer's agent to work with, don't hesitate to ask listing agents, hey, would you mind just writing a quick little something that I can send to other listing agents on how great I am to work with? Most listing agents, if you ask them, not in an expectant way, but just in a, hey, I appreciate you taking our offer. I hope that we were good to work with. Would you mind just writing like a one sentence thing? Hey, such and such was great to work with. I'd love to work with them again, right? Something like that. Also having the lender call. Right? Lending issues is one of the biggest concerns that listing agents have. Number one on lenders over-promising and under-delivering, but also on responses and all of that. But having the lender call to let them know that they have a strong client, that they have a strong borrower, your buyer clients, but having a strong lender is so vital. That's why it's so great to have our Homeowners First a partnership and affiliation, because all of these lenders are vetted. They're great people who have a vested interest in your success, but having a strong lender is super vital. Having them call the listing agent to talk up the qualifications and easing the concern about financing, but also highlighting how responsive, professional, and how their mentality is, look, we're gonna get it done. My favorite way of saying it is, look, I'm a big boy, just tell me when problems come up, that way we can deal with them. Don't skirt around the process, okay? After you have the lender call, following up on the offer, you'd be surprised at how few agents do that, because listing agents get overwhelmed with 20, 30 offers, right? It's easy to get lost in the shuffle. And oftentimes the biggest difference between agents are those agents who follow up, right? To remind them of who you are, who your clients are, but it's very important, not in an expectant, when can we expect a response way, not in a combative way. It's maybe asking, hey, I know you guys have gotten multiple offers. Hey, are we still in the ballpark? Right? Is there anything we can do to modify it to make the seller like us more, or anything like that? Asking for intel. Here is the big difference, and I promise you guys, this will make you a ton of money if you do this one thing. If you do all of these and you get the listing agent to like you, and you're on that verge, but maybe there's some buyers who are offering more or offering different things, your goal is to ask the listing agent to give you an opportunity of an exclusive seller counteroffer, even if it's short term, because listing agents will never think of this. Listing agents, this is their concern, is they don't want to choose the wrong person and then be out that momentum. So what you want to do is you do all of these great things. You want the listing agent to like you. You have a really well done thing, you know, the lender call, all this great stuff. Your goal is to say, hey, look, I want to work with you, and it sounds like you guys would love to work with us. Can you at least give us a window of an opportunity of telling us in a counter exactly what it would take to go with us tonight, and give us 30 minutes to respond? And if we don't give you exactly what that is, then you can blast it out to everybody, because that's usually what we have, right? We have the multiple offer and it says highest and best, and then it's back and forth for another 3 freaking days. If you get in touch and you get in with the gatekeeper and they want to work with you, I promise this one thing will make you more money than anything else that I just talked about. It's getting an exclusive short-term seller counteroffer that expires within 30 minutes or an hour or so. And we can talk about logistics on that. But again, that one thing has made me more money than anything else. And in order to do that, you want to get your clients to respond ASAP, right? You want to prep them. Hey, if I'm coming with you with something, we got minutes to respond. The default expiration of counteroffers is usually 3 days. Don't wait that time. That's a fallacy. At a moment's notice, they can take another offer. So boom, don't play games. Don't let them marinate on it. If it's a bidding war, if it's just you and the other seller, that's, you know, a different tactic. But if there's multiple offers, don't wait, okay? Prepare the buyers in advance that we want to respond quickly and decisively, because that shows the strength of that buyer's want to buy the house, right? Because you already showed that they have the ability, but we want that. Are they going to be good to work with, right? Also, if they're coming in with a counteroffer of, let's say, $10,000, right? Don't say, hey, they want 10 grand more. Break it into a monthly payment. Hey, is this house worth 45 bucks a month to you? Right? Ask the lender to run that difference on a moment's notice. Tell the lender, if I'm calling you about the offer, so pick up, right? So break the price difference into monthly payment, not just the price point difference. And you can reduce it to the ridiculous. Right? If you're saying it's an extra 50 bucks a month, you can say, look, that's an extra 67 cents a day. Are you going to tell me that if this was a hotel and they offered you $150 a night, and when you show up, it's $150.67, you would take your luggage and go somewhere else? Because that tells me this isn't the right house, right? Reassure them that this is just the start of the process, because sometimes it will pop up where they're like, an extra 10 grand, I don't know. I still have concerns about the HOA of XYZ. But like, look, this is just the start of the process. We're going to find all that stuff out in escrow. But this is just to give yourselves the option of saying no later. Revisit their motivation and perception of the market. Again, why are they looking to do this in the first place? Take them back to the house if the market conditions allow, right? In a fast moving market, we don't have time. Right? Or maybe drive by and then get them to make the decision while they're at the house, and then sell them on what this will accomplish for them in the picture. Again, going back to motivation, what is this going to do for them? But this won't work every time. I get it. And it can be frustrating that you can do all of this and it doesn't work. But remember, there are no certainties. There are only probabilities. This is all about upping your chances, not guaranteeing with certainties, right? Don't let a momentary defeat of you doing all this and it not working permeate into a fatalistic future where you're saying, hey, look, you know what? It doesn't even matter. You know, screw it, right? Every offer matters, and it should matter to you. Don't become what the tech developers want us to be. They want us to be walking, talking super keys. We have a value. It's important. And don't just flippantly send offers. Mark Kojak has his saying, do it right or don't do it at all. That is the number one way to increase your probability, is doing every single offer right or don't do it at all. And get your clients to understand that. I want to share with you guys an example of a real example of the last offer that I wrote before I went into management. Here's an offer. Here's a property. It was in Temecula, and if you guys look at the directions, it gives you an insight into this listing agent's personality. It says, whilst wearing your face mask like a ninja, because you know the Rona, and your sanitized hands at 10 and 2 on the wheel, drive to Brookway, give the neighbors a friendly wave, then power brake your car around the cul-de-sac like a boss. Freaking hysterical. Gives me an insight into his personality. Reading the showing instructions, it says to text his name with the day and time. He said, extra bonus points if you send me a funny meme or a GIF with your request. Appreciated, but not required. So I wanted to share with you guys, this was my showing request. I texted him. He goes by the name of Bald Guy Red Tie is his brand name. If you look, it says show contact name, Bald Guy Red Tie, right? So I said, dear Mr. John, Bald Guy Red Tie, my clients love your listing. In fact, they more than love it. They need it, which means I need it, which means we should work together. When's the next available showing for it? We will move heaven and earth to get there. Sincerely, balding guy with a gray tie with a picture of myself. And he said, oh, finally, somebody that paid attention to my showing request. When would you like to sew it? I said, I can be there tomorrow, tonight, or 5 minutes ago. When would be best? I'm driving there now, with a GIF of Skinner. Okay. He said, you can show it if you can be finished by whatever. I said, very cool. Thanks again. I think you'd be super cool to work with. It would be a breath of fresh air. Thanks for the good humor. I like you already. I'm fun to work with. Get that 3% playa. And I said, yeah, right. Heading to an appointment. Then we confirmed saying that we would like to show it tomorrow at 11. I'll send a PED because that was during when the PED forms were wonderful, right? I told him when I was on the road, because again, over communicating. Oh, I'm on the road. Clients already told me that they want to write an offer on it. When are you planning on presenting offers? He said he's already presented the first one, but wanted to give the a chance. I wrote, do you have a couple quick seconds to chat? That's the magical phrase. He said, yep. I called him. I got all the details. I got there. I like to make little notes to try to connect with him. Hey, I love this, by the way, on his super key. Then we started connecting on that. Boom, boom, boom. Luckily, I have a great sense of humor. 30 days wouldn't be long enough to get out all of the fun. Little gif of whatever, Anchorman. I'm kind of a big deal. Well played. Then I said, hey, just sent an offer over to you. Sellers calling for the highest and best. I said, thanks for the update. And I said, we the best, show me the money. That lets me know that they really care about the money. I said, oh, hell yes, we are. He said, you're definitely winning the gift game. And I said, I'm looking to win the big game, right? So I wanted to share with you an example of my offer email. This is a video of me inside of the house saying how much my clients want it. We're sending the offer as we're still in the house. We were doing the showing. I had already called him as I was driving, basically finding out what it would take. I recorded the video, wrote the offer, had them sign it with the summary. This was, by the way, a VA offer that was contingent, kind of a difficult thing to do. They were contingent on the sale of their house and a VA. I then sent an email with a video afterwards at 9 o'clock, 9:30, basically saying, I'm thinking of you at 9:30 at night. We're committed to this transaction. Okay, that's another example of a way to follow up to set yourself apart. My kids were screaming in the background of the video, so it was like a real style video, right? I said counter sent, because this is now after I sent those videos. He sent me a screenshot from his seller saying, I really like Jacob Lawlor. I think he's your competition for Creative Realtor Award. You want the seller to like you, right? He then sent me a screenshot showing that the house was pending. That kind of made me nervous because I didn't get anything. So he said, please tell me you did this. I was confused. And I said, if you meant changing it to pending, I didn't, right? But, I did do the power break, and I sent like a GIF of a car doing like a burnout. And he said, in the realtor kingdom, it's how you establish dominance and make a statement. Bonus points if you're throwing West Side out the window. And I said, next time I'll prep the neighbors that I'm coming in hot. And he said, hey, congrats on getting your offer accepted, right? So again, just to show you an example of what you can do beyond just tactically, you try to connect with the agent, right? But let's do it really quick, and then we'll do the question and answer, because I promised you guys this would be a rocket ship of masterclass information. But to make this easier, number one is work in a defined area, right? Because you can leverage prior relationships. You're already in with the gatekeepers. You have deep knowledge of the market. It increases your conversion rates, and each activity builds on the next activity. You're not constantly having to create new relationships, learn new markets, and all of that. But that, of course, implies that you do a great job, right? That's kind of a given. So I went through that pretty quick. But a bonus number two is to do what others don't. All this was organized around being in competition. But what if it didn't have to be that way? Here's 5 ways to look where others won't. Number one is the forgotten inventory. Take a look at homes that are longer on the market. We saw that the homes that are selling below list price are the ones that are averaging 67 days in our marketplace. In a market like this, if it's been on the market more than like 21 or 30 days, the seller starts getting concerned, which means they start making phone calls to the listing agents. So the agents will usually want to work with you and not against you, right? Second one is second chance opportunities. Of course, getting a backup offer solidified, okay? But also calling on houses that are in escrow, right? Homes that are in escrow, we're seeing a lot of volatility in escrows right now. I don't know about you guys, we're seeing a lot fall out. Calling ones that are on hold, calling them that are withdrawn, right? Calling the agent on withdrawn, not the seller because it's still under contract, right? Calling the ones that are back on market status, the ones that fall out and it goes right back into active, and then knocking on expired and cancels. Looking at the ugly ducklings, everyone loves the beautiful homes, right? Here's what I was taught as what makes a great buyer's agent. What makes a great buyer's agent is an agent who is able to give vision to clients who cannot see. Because oftentimes buyers are like those Nordstrom buyers. They don't want to do the work. They want it done. They want to just turn key and move on in. But those are ones how you get some good opportunities, right? Leveraging our agent network. Leverage your Rolodex, sneak preview. Holy crap, we have 400 homes on sneak preview right now. 400 on sneak preview. We have a built-in agent network of over 2,000 agents who are awesome to work with. And if they're not, call me and I will call them and say, be awesome to work with, right? Getting connected with plugs and wants at your office meeting, broker previews now that they're coming back. And on your phone calls to agents, asking every single agent who you connect with, do you have anything else exciting coming up that I can tell my buyer clients about? You'd be surprised at how many people will give you inside information. Leveraging Facebook groups. Everyone has different options, right? And then the next one, the hardest one, but my favorite one, is bringing homes to the market. Not letting the MLS tell you what's on the market, but finding out where your client wants to move and bringing it to market. Using the I have a buyer letters, the Philip DiMatteo I have a buyer letters, that's getting awesome engagement, awesome phone calls, and knocking, direct prospecting. Hey, my client wants to move to this neighborhood. I promised them I would knock on every single house until I found somebody who wants to move. When do you guys plan on making your next move? Right? The hardest thing to do, but it will make you more money. What I was taught is the phrase that deals are made, deals aren't found. Opportunities are found, but deals are made. And we should specialize in representing the best opportunities and making and negotiating the best deals. Because remember, there is no prize for second place. This is the difference between 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, 100 grand, and zero. What would you do for an extra 10 grand, 20 grand, or whatever? What would you expect? And do that every time and raise your standards, because your clients deserve it and you guys deserve it.